everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. The Phoenix's Fury is in need of both major repairs and a new crew after last week's disastrous mission in target for today. But that's not our focus tonight. Tonight, we're headed back to Gravehold to defend it from the Nameless as we play Aeon's End from indie boards and cards. Gravehold needs our help once again. Let's go meet our ladies that we call on when Gravehold needs our help. You guys have probably known them by now, but if this is your first... If you're a regular on the channel, you've met these two. We've spent a lot of time with these two ladies. If this is your first time, let's go meet them. For those of you who aren't familiar, and I'm going to get slightly spoilerific for Aeon's End Legacy on this note, if you're going through Aeon's End Legacy, you'll eventually be able to use the Magi that you're building for a campaign for exhibition games of Aeon's End. So that's how that works out. Anyway, first up we're going to meet the first of those Magi, Nyrisia. So as you can see, she comes with all kinds of special abilities. Her breach configuration, 1 starts open, 2 and 3 start to the left, and 4 starts on the bottom. As far as her special abilities, we've got Dark Blessing first up. Once per turn during your main phase, you may discard a card in hand. If you do, deal 1 damage. Rage of the Sith. Once per turn when you focus or open a breach, deal 2 damage. And her special ability is Netherlord's Wrath. During her main phase, we activate that. Cast any player's prep spell without discarding it. That spell deals 1 additional damage. And any player returns a spell in their discard pile to their hand. Excuse me. Had a little frog in my throat there. So when an effect says any player, that means you can target yourself with that. As we'll see in a second when we move over to Solidia, when an effect says any ally, the player with an ally can't target themselves with that. They have to target another player with that. Anyway, Nyrisia will be on player 1 when we get into the turn order deck. That's it for Nyrisia. Now let's move over to her partner. Nyrisia's partner tonight is her partner every time we play Aeon's End with these two, Solidia, the other mage in their campaign through Aeon's End Legacy. She'll be player 2 tonight. Same breach configuration as Nyrisia. Her special abilities consist of, first up, Vengeful Shadows. When you cast 2 or more spells during your casting phase, gain 1 ether. Ether being the currency you use to buy in this game. Then we've got Power Word Silence. Once per turn during your main phase, you may discard a card in hand. If you do, silence a minion. And Will of the High Priestess. Gain a spell from any supply pile. You may place that spell into any ally's hand, and an ally gains 2 charges. So this is what I was talking about with the ally versus player wording. When Solidia activates her special ability, she would have to give that to Nyrisia, which, as we can see, might not be that big a problem and might also not be that useful, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. Anyway, Solidia will be player 2. Both of our Magi will start with 10 health, so let's go meet our nemesis for tonight. Tonight, Nyrisia and Solidia are taking on Wraithmonger. 70 health to start with. We've got the dial just off shot here. Special Unleash ability, the player with the fewest terror tiles, which is these, claims the highest numbered unclaimed terror tile and resolves its effect. We'll go through those once we go through the additional rules. As additional rules, any player may lose 4 charges during their main phase to return all terror tiles claimed by players to the Wraithmonger terror mat. When terror tile is claimed, the players immediately lose the game. When a player claims a terror tile, that player places it on top of the ability text of their player mat. Players with terror tiles cannot activate their abilities. And when a player is exhausted, Gravehold suffers 4 damage instead of Unleash twice. Resolve the rest of the unexhaust effects. So looking at the terror mats, at the terror tiles, 7 is discard a card in hand. Then 6 is suffer 2 damage. 5 is lose 2 charges or Gravehold suffers 3 damage. 4 is discard 3 cards in hand or suffer 4 damage. 3 is lose 3 charges or Gravehold suffers 5 damage. 2 is suffer 4 damage. 1, Wraithmonger enshrouds you in terror. Gravehold is enslaved. The players lose the game. So obviously we don't want to get to number 1 on that. We'll probably put Solidia on Wraithmonger Terror Effect Detail, because her ability isn't as useful, in my opinion, as Nyricia's is. And I think we're going to need as much damage as we can find here. Anyway, let's go through our market next. The market's a little pricier than I normally play with, but I think we can work with it tonight. First up, we'll take a look at our gems. First, we've got a Summonite in here for 3 ether. When you play this, you either gain 2 ether, or gain a Summonite from the supply and place it on top of any ally's discard pile. If you're unfamiliar with Aeon's End, the top of the ally's discard pile is equivalent to the bottom of the deck, because you actually don't shuffle the deck when you flip it when you run out of cards to draw. You're literally just going to take your discard pile and flip it over. We will see that quite a few times. So the strategy in this game is actually in manipulating your discard pile in what order you put everything in. Coming back to the market, though, we've also got an Arcing Silicate for 4 ether, gain 2 and a pulse token. You may lose any number of pulse tokens. Deal damage equal to the number of pulse tokens you lose this way. Our last gem is a muted Lacocyte for 5 ether. When you gain this, silence a minion and gain 3 ether. Next up for the relics, we've got a Bottled Vortex for 3. Destroy this, destroy up to 2 cards in your hand or discard pile, draw a card for 3. Then we've got a Reality Stabilizer for 6 ether. Gain 2 charges and silence a minion, which might not be that useful if we don't have a lot of minions coming up. Our spells last. First up, we've got Conflagration for 3 ether. It's got Link, so 2 spells with Link may be prepped to the same breach. Cast, deal 2 damage, and gain an ether. Then we've got a favorite that served us well in our games of Aeon's End, Bending Beam for 5 ether. Cast, deal 2 damage. If this spell is cast from an open 3 breach, deal 3 additional damage. So what I'm gathering out of that is open our 3 breaches as fast as we can. Then we've got a Catalyst for 6 ether. Cast, deal 2 damage. If you have 2 life or less, deal 5 additional damage. And that costs 6. Last up, we've got Radiance. That costs 8 ether. Cast, deal 5 damage. Each ally draws a card. So that's our market for tonight. With that, let's move back up top and set everything up there. What I've done here, in case this is your very first Aeon's End video you're coming across, is I've actually broken the turn order deck apart so you can see how it's built. This is one thing I really like about Aeon's End, where you'll always have the exact same number of player turns and nemesis turns, no matter the player count. Now granted, it might be a little bit different for true solo. In fact, let me see if there are rules in here for how to build the turn order deck for true solo. There is not. I always play with... You can play this theoretically true solo, but I always play it with 2 Magi. So what I've got in here is you've got 2 player 1 cards, 2 player 2 cards, and the Nemesis. The way you'd build the turn order deck for 3 players is you'd go 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, a wild that whoever needs it could use it for, and 2 Nemesis cards. Then similarly with 4 players, you'd have 1 of each player card in there, plus the 2 Nemesis cards. So you'll always have the same number of player turns, no matter the player count that you're actually playing with, which is one thing I really like about this game. But I'm rambling on the turn order deck a little bit. We're all set to get into this game, so let's see what we can do about defeating Wraithmonger. Our first order of business here is to gather up our turn order deck. Give it a quick shuffle. And a cut. And we'll draw our first card from the turn order deck. So let's see who's going first here. The Nemesis. So let's move up to Wraithmonger. The way the Nemesis turn works in this game is you'd start by resolving anything that's out already, from newest to oldest order, and we're going to follow it we're basically going to start from left to right, then we'll make a row going down, right to left, and so on, depending on how out of control the Nemesis cards get. Obviously, you can see first turn of the game, so we have no cards out yet, which means we'll draw the top card of the Nemesis deck and find Bladestorm. Gravehold suffers 3 damage. The player with the fewest open breaches suffers 2 damage, which technically could be either one of us, either Nyrisia or Solidia. So, first, Gravehold starts off at 30 health, except I'm going to shortcut that down to 27 because we just took 3 damage. And I'm going to have Nyrisia eat the first 2 damage. The only reason this might be somewhat good is because we can use that to set up for Catalyst, assuming we're able to get up to 6 Ether in a hurry on a consistent basis. That's it for the Nemesis turn, so let's see who's going up next. It's the Nemesis again. So I suppose a good thing we're right here, which means we get to draw another card from the top of the Nemesis deck we find. Throng Commander, 3 armor, 1 health. Persistent. If there are 2 or more other minions in play, Gravehold suffers 6 damage and discard this minion. Otherwise, any player suffers 2 damage. So I think we want to try to pick this guy off as fast as we can, but we do have 3 armor tokens that we need to worry about. The way armor tokens work is we'll reduce any damage that would be dealt to the minion to 1 and then take out one of the armor tokens. So I'm going to get a die for the health counters in a second, but first, let's see which of our ladies is going first. Player 2, so let's drop down to Solidia and see how a player turn works. We could probably take out that Throng Commander if we felt like it here, and that actually might not be a terrible idea. So Solidia is going to start off with her... Actually, she's going to start off by spending 3 Ether from her crystals to focus her 3 breach, because I want that 3 open as fast as I can. Then we're going to prepare a spark to her 1 breach, and we're going to prepare Solidia's spark to her 3 breach. Because we focused her 3 breach, we can prepare a spell to it, but since it's being prepared on a closed breach, we'll have to cast that. And I wanted to go through how a turn works, but now that we've got spells prepared, we'll actually be able to see a better idea of how the casting phase actually works. So when the turn's over, we'll draw back up, and then we'll go for the turn order deck. We will find player 1. So let's move over to Nyrisia. Similar rationale to what Solidia did. Actually, let's go through a turn properly. So we'll start off with a casting phase. If we had any spells prepared to our open breaches, we could hold those in reserve and not cast them right away. If we have anything prepped to a closed breach, though, we would have to cast that. Then we place cast spells on top of the discard pile as they're cast, obviously, so nothing happening there. Anyway, we'll use our 3 crystals here to focus Nyrisia's 3 breach as well. And because of Nyrisia's Rage of the Sith, we're actually going to point that at Wraithmonger. I'm going to plan on pinging down that Throng Commander rather quickly. So we'll deal 68. We'll deal 2 damage to Wraithmonger, bringing him down to 68, since we did focus a breach. Then we're going to prepare a Spark to the 3 breach and a Nyrisia's Fury to the 1 breach, which is her special card. And we'll draw up, and we'll see who's going next. Turn order deck says... Good thing we're right here because we're going to Nyrisia. So the casting phase now comes up. The spark we have to cast, which we are going to point at the Throng Commander. It does offer a 1 damage bonus on the other side, but because it's not open yet, we only do the 1 damage, which actually takes one of the armor tokens off the Throng Commander. Similarly, we're going to point the Nyrisia's Fury, which deal 1 damage, gain an Ether that we can only use to get a spell, and we gain a charge for that. We'll point that at the Throng Commander as well. Then we've got 2 sparks and 3 ether to spend. Or 4 if I decide I'm getting spells with it. Which... The problem is we don't have any 4-cost spells up there. And given how expensive the reserve is, I think we're going to use the... How do we want to do this? Actually, I think what we're going to do here is we're going to take the... Well, Solidia can probably kill that Throng Commander on her turn. So that's a consideration that we need to take into account as well. We are going to prep a Spark to her 1 breach. I think we're going to use 2 Ether. Actually, either way, we're going to be stuck with with a card in hand here. I think we're going to use I think we're going to let that 1 Ether float away. I'm going to spend 3 to get Nyrisia a Summonite because I want to get her up in a hurry. Then I'm going to discard a Spark to take the last armor token off of the... I'm going to discard the Spark to take the last armor token off the Throng Commander. Then here's what I was talking about you don't shuffle. So you can see we're out of cards to draw in Nyrisia's deck. So we're going to take her discard pile, flip it over, and then we're going to draw 5 cards. So the bottom of the discard pile now becomes the top of the deck. So in that way, we don't shuffle. And then the turn order deck says, hey, look at that. It's Solidia's turn, to the shock of, well, not yours truly. So let's move over to Solidia. We're going to sequence this properly. So first up, we're going to use the Spark to take out the Throng Commander for the last point of damage. So the Throng Commander's been defeated. And then because we have... Then Solidia's Spark says, cast, deal 1 damage. If your discard pile contains 4 or more cards, and as you can see, hers does, deal 2 additional damage, and we gain an Ether. So that 3 damage is getting pointed right at the Wraithmonger, which will bring the Wraithmonger down to 65. And then that gets discarded, and Solidia gains an Ether. Which now she's got 4 to spend and 2 Sparks. Well, she's got 4 total to spend. So we're going to spend 3 of it. We're actually going to let that extra Ether float away so we can work on cycling through the deck and open her 3 breach so we can prep both of her Sparks. Her 3 breach, as you might be able to see, comes with an open breach bonus of gain +1 damage on cast. So when we cast something from that breach, we'll actually deal an additional damage. Nyrisia's breach should have that. Yep, Nyrisia's 3 breach has that as well. 2, 3, 4, 5. We're flipping over Solidia's discard pile and drawing 5 cards from that. So let's move back up top. Now that we're at the end of a round, I call a round a run through the turn order deck. So let's move back up top to see how the board states changed as we get ready for round 2. Nyrisia's 3 breach is 1 point away from being opened up, and she's got a Spark prepared to 1. Solidia's got Sparks prepared to her 1 and her open 3, which will be dealing a decent amount of damage at the start of the game. As for Wraithmonger, currently nothing going on, and none of the terror tiles have moved on us, which is a very good thing here. So let's give this a shuffle, the turn order deck, and we'll start a new round. Generally, the more damage we're able to point at the boss, the quicker we're able to get through this. So then this will be our first card for this run through the turn order deck. We are finding that Solidia is going first. So let's drop down to Solidia. I did forget to mention when we were up top that Nyrisia took the 2 damage from the Blade Storm. So she's down at 8. Solidia is still at full health. But going into Solidia's casting phase, we've got 2 Sparks here, both of which are going to hit the Wraithmonger for a total of 3 damage and bring him down to 62. As for what we're doing here, we'll prepare a Solidia Spark to 1, or to 3, and the Spark to 1, and we've got 3 to buy with, which 3 is going to be a Summonite as well. So we'll do that for Solidia, then we'll draw back up. 1, 2, 3. We're we're flipping over already, 4, 5. Okay. Next card from the turn order deck is the Nemesis. So let's move up to Wraithmonger. Nothing happening to start the turn here, so let's see what happens from the Nemesis deck. Wraithmonger will be unleashing, so one of us will have to take we'll have to take one of the terror cards, and Gravehold suffers 3 damage. So that'll bring Gravehold down, once it decides to focus, to 24. And then one of us will have to take a terror card. The first one is discard a card in hand, which I think I'll actually give that to Solidia. So Solidia will have to discard a card in hand. She's got a crystal that she can toss to that. She'll be gaining an ether when she casts her Solidia's Spark next turn. Next up from the turn order deck we find player 1. So let's move over to Nyrisia. We'll go ahead and spark Wraithmonger for 1 because of course we will. We definitely want to kill this guy quickly with no way to really heal Gravehold in this game. So we've got 3 crystals and 2 sparks. I'll start off with the 3 crystals to open Nyrisia's 3 breach. Nyrisia should have a charge as well from using her Nyrisia's Fury earlier, which I will prepare that to her 3 breach, and the spark will go to her 1 breach. We'll draw back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right, cool. And coming out of the turn order deck next we find the Nemesis again, so let's move back up to Wraithmonger. Again, nothing happening with Wraithmonger right now, so the next card we find here, Terror Coil, Power 3, Unleash. The player with the lowest numbered claimed terror tile resolves that terror tile, so essentially we'd be resolving that twice. That's a Power 3. Thankfully, it's not going to tick down again on this run through the turn order deck. All we've got left in the turn order deck is player cards right now. So first up, we're going to find player 2. So let's move over to Solidia. All right, so we'll spark. So we're going to hit the boss for a total of 3 damage here because we don't have the additional cards in the discard pile. So that'll be an ether for Solidia and 3 damage, which will bring Wraithmonger down to 58. And then Solidia has an ether plus another 2 more for a total of 3. We'll prep 2 sparks, and then 3 ether will get us a it's going to be a conflagration, I think. Then that'll all move to Solidia's discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I have a feeling this is going to be a lot. Okay, this is a lot of buying power. All right, good to know. And then no bonus points for guessing who's up next here. Hey, look at that. Let's move over to Nyrisia. We'll hit Wraithmonger for a total of 3 more damage from a Nyrisia's Fury on a 3 breach and a Spark on a 1 breach. So that'll bring Nyrisia. That'll bring Wraithmonger down, once it decides to focus, to 55. We'll stack it like so. We also have an ether that we can use if we're buying a spell, and I think we are most likely. Prep a spark to her 1 breach. Then we're going to discard a crystal because I won't need that. We'll deal 2 more damage to Wraithmonger thanks to Rage of the Sith to bring Nyrisia down to 53. And then 5 ether total will get us our first Bending Beam. That's going to turn into a very handy spell for us, assuming we can get to it quickly. We're flipping over Nyrisia's discard pile again and drawing up. And now we're moving back up top to see how the board state's changed. Both 3 breaches are open now, so the damage should start flowing a little bit faster. Gravehold is at 24, though, so we do need to try to work a little bit quickly here. No health changes here. Nyrisia is still at 8 health, Solidia is at 10. As for Wraithmonger, we now have a Terror Coil to worry about that's going to cause the next terror tile, basically, to resolve twice on us. So we do need to be very mindful of that, but that won't be happening on this run through the turn order deck, which let's start that now. with another shuffle. And here we will find player 2. So let's move down to Solidia. Three more damage going at Wraithmonger, which will bring him down to 50. Then we've got 6 ether to buy with, which could be another Bending Beam or a Catalyst. I think right now, or it could be a Summonite for the top of Nyricia's discard pile. But I think we're going to use 5 and get a Bending Beam. I want to start getting our firepower going here, since we do need to work a little bit fast, especially with us not really having a way to heal Gravehold in this game. Okay. And then our next card in the turn order deck will be the Nemesis. So let's move up to Wraithmonger. Nyrisia should have a second charge since she did cast Nyricia's Fury again. Terror Coil will tick down to 2, and then we'll flip over a new card from the Nemesis deck. We will find Horrify. Any player resolves the 2 highest numbered unclaimed terror tiles in any order without claiming them. Yikes. Well, so the 2 highest numbered unclaimed terror tiles in any order without claiming them. Nyrisia is going to have to eat the 2 charges from number 5. Actually, Gravehold could suffer 3 damage. Yeah, I think we're going to have Gravehold suffer the 3 damage. We're going to need those charges. And if we're going to hopefully start speeding up our damage output here pretty soon, this shouldn't be a big problem, but I will need to keep an eye on that. And then Solidia will suffer the 2 damage from Terror Tile 6. So that'll bring her down to 8. Moving back over to the turn order deck, we find player 1. So let's move down to Nyrisia. 2 damage going into Wraithmonger's face to bring him down to 48. That was a spark on a 3 breach. Then we'll take a quick look at Nyricia's hand. We'll prep Nyricia's Fury to her 1, spark to her 3, spark to her 1, and we've got 3 to buy with, which is going to be opening her 2 breach outright. And then thanks to Rage of the Sith, we'll deal another 2 damage to Wraithmonger to bring him down to 46. Then we'll move that over to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, got some power coming up. Our next card from the turn order deck is the Nemesis. So back up to Wraithmonger we go. Terror Coil ticks down, and that will go off on the Nemesis on Wraithmonger's next turn, which is basically going to mean Nyrisia is going to take 4 damage unless I decide to return discard a card in hand. Because honestly, discarding 2 cards could be a better thing to do, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. Let's see what happens here. We've got a minion. Oh, fun. Abyssal Nightmare, 5 health. Persistent. Any player resolves the highest numbered unclaimed terror tile without claiming it. 5 health for that, so now we've got a minion to deal with. Now might be where we start leaning on Solidia's power word Silence a little bit more, which I have not been paying attention to. And it's Solidia's turn, so let's move over to her. Alright, we're going to prep a Conflagration to her 3 breach, Solidia Spark to her 1 breach, then we've got 2 ether and a spark to work with. So I'm actually going to discard the spark to activate Solidia's power word Silence. We'll silence the Abyssal Nightmare, assuming we can't just take it out, and we might be able to. Then 2 ether will focus her 2 breach. Okay. 2, 3, 4. Alright, and then G, I wonder who our last card in the turn order deck is. Player 1. So let's move over to Nyrisia. Since the Abyssal Nightmare is silenced, and we're about to start a new run through the turn order deck, we are going to go ahead and try to deal with it with damage now. So we're going to use Nyricia's Fury on the Abyssal Nightmare to hit it for 2 damage. and then we'll actually hit it for 3 with the spark as well. Nyrisia will gain a charge from Nyrisia's Fury. I have been bad about remembering that, but I will remember it now. Then we've got the Bending Beam, which is going to her 3 breach, Spark to her 1 breach, and I've got 4 to buy with, or 2 if I want to give Solidia a Summonite. Which, actually, I think Nyrisia can just wipe out the Abyssal Nightmare right here if she focuses her 4 breach. And I think... this is a decision. Because we could also take an Arcane Silicate here. Which would increase her buying power even a little bit more, even though we're going to be flipping over the discard pile here momentarily. You know what? I think we are going to focus her 4 breach, but I'm going to gamble that we'll get a turn before the Nemesis gets a turn, and we'll point the 2 damage from Nyrisia's Rage of the Sith when we focus a breach at Wraithmonger to bring him down to 44. Like I said, the gamble here is that we get a turn before Wraithmonger gets 2 turns. We know Nyrisia is taking 4 damage on her next turn anyway, and there's nothing we can do about that. Because we're going to Unleash, which will give Nyrisia Terror Tile 6, and then she's going to have to resolve that. She's going to resolve it when she takes it, and then resolve it again. She'll resolve it when she takes it, and then she'll resolve it again as part of the Terror Coil. So that's going to cut Nyrisia's health in half. So we'll flip everything over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh joy. And now let's move back up top to see how the board state's changed. Both of our 3 breaches are open, and Nyrisia's 2 breach is open. We've got a lot of damage ready to go. We're probably going to go ahead and take out the Abyssal Nightmare on our next turn. But tipping up toward Wraithmonger, we see that the Terror Tile 7 is gone, so Lydia ended up with that one. Terror Coil is going to go off on the next Nemesis turn, and the Abyssal Nightmare has 2 health, but he's also silenced. So that's not a big problem for us right now. We'll give the turn order deck a shuffle. And a cut, and we'll see where we're starting. I think we've started with the Nemesis every round this game. And this one will be no different, so let's move up to Wraithmonger. Terror Coil goes off and unleashes, which is going to give Nyrisia Terror Tile 6. She'll suffer 2 damage from that, and then immediately suffer 2 damage again, because the Terror Coil forces it to resolve again with the lowest numbered claimed Terror Tile. So Nyrisia essentially has to resolve that twice. And then Abyssal Nightmare tries to have its Persistent go off, but the Silence token comes off. So this is where we hope our gamble paid off. Flipping over a new card from the turn order deck or the Nemesis deck we find. Depreciate. To discard, spend 7 Ether. Power 2, unleash twice. The player with the most expensive card in hand destroys that card and then gains a card of the same type that costs less from any supply pile. That player suffers 2 damage. So we need to get up to 7 Ether if we can. But we also need to hope that the Nemesis doesn't go again. So let's see what happens here. We find player 2. So let's move down to Solidia. I'm just thinking about strategy and how I want to do this. So I'm going to use Solidia's Spark on the Abyssal Nightmare to hit him for 1 damage. Unfortunately, we don't have enough cards in the discard pile to trigger that, so he's down to 1 health. Then I'm going to use a Conflagration and point that at Wraithmonger to deal 3 damage to him, since it's coming from a 3 breach. And then once I actually remember to pay attention to Vengeful Shadows, that'll bring Wraithmonger down to 41. I will have 3 Ether so far, because both of those spells gave me 1 and Vengeful Shadows gave her another 1. Then hold on, wait, I think I grabbed her deck. Whoops. Let's grab her hand here. I was looking at her hand and like, ooh, I can actually deal with the Depreciate, but I can't. So I'm going to prep a Bending Beam to her 3 breach. Yeah, I think we can actually lock him down. So we've got 3... So we've got 3 ether, 4, 5, 6 total, and we got 2 more sparks. So I potentially have as much as 6 ether, which is actually 1 short to be able to deal with that Depreciate, which is only going to tick down 1 more time. So on this run through the turn order deck. So I think the question here is, do I gamble that the Nemesis is going again? Or do we try to wipe out the Nightmare, or do we try to lock down or wipe out the Nightmare here? I'll prep a spark to her 1 breach. So I've got a total of 6 ether. I'm counting the 3 that I've gained from spells. 6 would get her a catalyst. Or 3 charges so I can get rid of some of these tiles. And we just started this run through the turn order deck, so that's a consideration as well. Unfortunately, we can't get it up high enough to deal with the Depreciate. Or it could be opener 3 breach, 2 charges. I wanted to do something about that Abyssal Nightmare. I don't want to take a chance. Actually, to lose 2 charges or Gravehold suffers 3 damage wouldn't be that bad right now. So I think we are going to open her 3 or her 2 breach, prep a spark to it, and then gain 2 charges. So I'm gambling a little bit. We've got a 3 and 4 chance that we'll get a turn before the Nemesis gets another one. Now we can draw Solidia's hand. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And let's see what happens coming out of the turn order deck. Player 1. Perfect. So let's move over to Nyrisia. Spark says Abyssal Nightmare goes toodaloo. So we get rid of him. Then we're going to point a Bending Beam at Wraithmonger for a total of 6 damage. Deal 2 plus 1 from a 3 breach is 3. And then because we're casting it from a 3, we deal 3 additional damage. So that's a total of 6 damage going at Wraithmonger's face, which is always very welcome. Then we're going to prepare a spark to her 3 breach, and we're going to spend 4 ether to focus her 4 breach and deal Wraithmonger another 2 damage from Rage of the Sith. So we're down to 33. And that's all done. We'll draw back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're getting somewhere here. Next card from the turn order deck. Player 2, so let's move over to Solidia. Now we're going to have a lot of damage flying into Wraithmonger's face. So we're going to start off with a Bending Beam, which is going to be another 6, 7, 8 damage going at Wraithmonger, which will bring him down to 25. We'll also activate Vengeful Shadows and give Solidia an ether. We'll stack the spells like that. So that's 1 ether. We'll prepare a spark to her 3 breach, and we've got 4 more for a total of 5, which I think is going to be another Bending Beam. Then we'll flip Solidia's deck over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're starting to get somewhere-ish here. Next card from the turn order deck is the Nemesis, so we're back up to Wraithmonger. Depreciate will tick down to 1, and then we'll draw off the top of the Nemesis deck. Manifest. Either the player with the fewest terror tiles claims the 3 highest numbered unclaimed tiles without resolving them, or any player loses 1 charge and suffers 4 damage. Claims the 3 highest. That's going to put 2 out there as being the next active one. Or any player loses a charge and suffers 4 damage. Well, I think that would basically lock us into having somebody having to gain a charge and then return all of the tiles back, which probably isn't the worst thing in the world right now. Right now, with the fewest terror tiles, which could be either one of them. So I could theoretically force number 2 over to Solidia on... Actually, wait a minute. Wait. Hold the phone. Because if we unleash twice... So we're going to unleash twice on the next run through the turn order deck. If we unleash twice, with number 2 being the highest unclaimed tile out there, unleash twice will give us 2 and 1 and we'll lose. So that's actually a very terrible idea. So I think instead Solidia is going to bite the bullet. She's going to lose a charge and take 4 damage. Because we can't afford to have unleashed twice, leaving us with the last 3 tiles out there. I don't want to gamble. When it's a possibility of losing the game, I don't want to gamble on the Nemesis getting to go and having Depreciate tick down before we go. So that's like I said, that's not a gamble I'm willing to take here. Last up, just to remove the suspense, hey, look at that, let's move down to Nyrisia. We'll spark Wraithmonger's face for another 2 to bring him down to 23. Then we'll start dealing with things over here. I think for 4 ether, we'll open Nyrisia's 4 breach, and then we'll deal another 2 damage to Wraithmonger to bring him down to 21. Then we're going to prepare Nyrisia's Fury to her 4 and a Spark to her 3. We'll stack it like that, and then we'll draw back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we've got some decent firepower coming, but the question is, are we going to last to get there? So with that, let's move back up top to see how the board state's changed. All 4 of Nyrisia's breaches are open now, and we've got all but number 4 open for Solidia. We've definitely got firepower coming, but I think we're still going to have at least one more run through the turn order deck. We're probably, I would say we're all but locked in at this point to having to return the terror tiles back to the terror mat. Nyrisia's got her Fury prepped to her 3 breach and a Spark to her 2 breach. Solidia's got a Spark on her 3 breach right now. As for Wraithmonger, Depreciate's going to go off on this run through the turn order deck. The question is if we're going to be able to survive that, and I think the answer is probably yes, because we're going to have 2 unleashes. But that remains to be seen. Hopefully, the Nemesis does not go first on this run through the turn order deck. But we're going to find out soon enough. I think he's gone first on every single run through the turn order deck, including this one. So let's zoom up to Wraithmonger. Depreciate is going to go off. So we unleash twice. We'll give number 5 to Nyrisia since we can choose. We'll have Gravehold suffer 3 damage. So that'll bring Gravehold down to 18, which will then force number 4 over to Solidia, which means she can either discard 3 cards in hand or suffer 4 damage. She's going to discard 3 cards in hand. Then the player with the most expensive card in hand destroys that card and gains a card of the same type that costs less from any supply pile. Unfortunately, that is going to cost Nyrisia her Bending Beam, and it'll give her a Conflagration, which might work out in the end, but Nyrisia will suffer 2 damage from that, so that's rather unfortunate there. So we definitely need to get to work on Wraithmonger here, and we need to get those terror tiles back. Next card up, Drain, Unleash. Gravehold suffers 2 damage. The players collectively discard 2 prepped spells. Then, if any player has a prepped spell that costs 4 ether or more, Unleash. All right, so we're unleashing, which will force that over to... Yikes. We'll put that over to Nyrisia. Gravehold will suffer 5 damage going down to 13. Then we discard 2 prepped spells. It's going to be 2 sparks, which is actually fortunate because neither of them has a prepped spell that costs 4 or more, so we don't unleash again. All right, that was brutal. Next card from the turn order deck is player 1, so let's move down to Nyrisia. We're going to hit Wraithmonger for 2 with Nyrisia's Fury, which gives her an ether that she can only use to get a spell, which we might end up doing here. So we'll bring the die over here. That's 1 for spells. And she gets a charge, which is actually going to be very critical here. Then we're going to prepare a Conflagration to her 4 breach, a Spark to her 3, and we've got 3 to buy with. First order of business, though, I'm going to spend her 4 charges to return all of the terror tiles that we've claimed back to the terror mat. So 3, 5, 6, and 4, 7. And then 3, actually, I've got 3 to buy with, 4 if I'm getting a spell. And I think I'll use the 1 ether. I'll hold 1 crystal in hand. I'll use the ether that I can only use to get a spell and 2 crystals to get a conflagration. Then I'm going to discard the crystal I held in hand to Rage of the Sith to deal 2 damage to Wraithmonger, which will bring him down, once it decides to focus, to 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Next card from the turn order deck. Back to the Nemesis again. Thankfully, we've got nothing going on up there, but let's move up to Wraithmonger and see what he's doing. The bad news is Wraithmonger's gone twice. The okay news is we're in pretty rough shape. Nyrisia is at 2 health right now. Solidia is at 4. The good news is he's got nothing going on right now, so if this card isn't terribly catastrophic, we've got carte blanche through this run of the turn order deck to get him as low as possible to try to finish him off on our next run through the turn order deck. So let's see what happens here. We find a minion. 3 armor, 5 health. Humming Hive. Persistent. Any player suffers 2 damage. Great. So 5 health and 3 armor. So I think there's no basically about this. We need to be in total race mode at this point. Next player up is going to be player 1. So let's move back down to Nyrisia. Solidia is going to need to do as much damage on her turns as her pretty little self can muster. But before we get there, we need to go through Nyrisia's turns. So first up, we're going to hit Wraithmonger with a Conflagration to deal 3 damage and give her an ether. Then we'll hit Wraithmonger with another 2, so that'll be a total of 5, bringing him down to 12. Okay. Then we're going to prep a Spark to her 4 breach, and we've got 5 to buy with, potentially 4 if I want to dump one of these for a little extra discard damage, and I don't think I do. So I think, well, actually, that wouldn't be a completely terrible idea, though. Actually, you know what? We're going to gamble here. Since Nyrisia has Catalyst, since Nyrisia has 2 or less life, we're actually going to play out all of her hand to get a total of 6 ether to get a Catalyst. I don't think it's going to do anything for us, but can't hurt to try, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then just to remove the suspense of any BS here, we're going to be moving over to Solidia for the next 2 turns. So let's see what Solidia can do. What Solidia can do on her first turn is not a whole lot because we got our hand completely ripped apart in the course of the terror tiles and the double unleash we had when Depreciate went off. What we're going to do here, though, is we're going to prep Solidia's Spark to her 3 breach and a Conflagration to her 2 breach. We'll bring the die over because it'll be her turn again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me make sure I've got some way. Okay, yeah, I do have a way I can lock down the Humming Hive, which I really needed coming into this turn. So we're going to hit Wraithmonger with a Solidia's Spark for a total of 4 damage because we have a lot more than 4 cards in. Yep, we have 4. We have actually 4 other cards in the discard pile, so we're doing 4 damage to Wraithmonger, bringing him down to 8. And then a Conflagration for another 2 to bring him down to 6. And we have 2 Ether coming into the turn. Then we're going to prepare a Bending Beam to her 3 breach. Actually, we're going to prepare Bending Beams to 3 and 2. We'll put a Spark on 1. Then we're going to hold a Spark in hand, discard a crystal to Power Word Silence, and lock down the Humming Hive for a turn. And that's all we can do there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4, 5. Okay. All right. And we need to move back. We'll move back up top to see how the board state's changed, but I'll meet you guys there with the new battery. To the untrained eye, it might be looking a little bit dicey, but we're actually in a deceptively strong position because right now, Solidia by herself has more than enough damage queued up to take Wraithmonger out outright, and as long as she gets a turn before Wraithmonger goes twice, we will win this game. Nairisia's got a Spark on her 1 breach, Solidia's got Bending Beams on 2 and 3, and a Spark on 1. As for Wraithmonger, his Terror Mat's been fully reset, and the Humming Hive has been locked down, so we don't have any problems there. Anyway, let's give this a shuffle up, and hope Solidia goes before the Wraithmonger goes twice. Oop. There's one of the player 2 cards that we need to see falling on the ground. Give this a good shuffle. Now, if there was ever a time for Solidia to go first when the Nemesis has started every round for us, this would be it. It's trying to build up the suspense by making me drop some of these cards. So let's see what our first card out of the turn order deck is. Player 1. Well, we're halfway home, so let's move down to Nairisia. Nairisia is going to spark Wraithmonger for 2, and now we're going to find ourselves in a situation where any player card coming out of the turn order deck now will win us the game. So we'll prep a Conflagration to 4, Nairisia's Fury to 3, Spark to 2, and we'll take a charge for 2 crystals. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we broke the streak of not having the Wraithmonger go first on every turn. Let's hope this is a player turn, because any player turn right now wins the game for us. Player 2, so let's move over to Solidia. Bending Beam from an open 3 breach will send Wraithmonger running for the hills, as 6 damage will bring him down to -2, which resets up to 0, but in any case, we have managed to win the game and defeat Wraithmonger. So let's move back up top for video wrap-up. These 2 ladies tend to take a little bit more of the power cards and stuff like that right on the chin than they probably should, but it's balanced out by the fact that they just crank out so much damage over the course of the game that they're able to ignore some of that stuff and just power through it, especially when there's no healing to be found anywhere in the market for the game. But it's all a strategic balancing act and how you manage everything. So that will do it for this playthrough of Aeon's End. Busy week, still very busy coming up on the channel. Tomorrow, the 1991 playoffs and my replay of Payoff Pitch baseball will continue as the Pittsburgh Pirates travel to Shea Stadium to play the New York Mets in Game 3 of the National League Division Series. That series is tied at 1 game apiece. Then on Saturday, we'll be having probably a triple upload, as Mystical Munchies will continue out of the official Fallout Vault Dwellers cookbook with the dessert, Berry Crumble. Also on Saturday, we'll have a baseball doubleheader as the New York Dodgers continue in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium to play against the Braves, and the Toronto Blue Jays are still in Kansas City to play the Royals. The Dodgers and the Royals, respectively, lead their series 2-1 and are looking for the knockout blows. I'm not sure what we're doing on Sunday yet. We'll probably be continuing the Payoff Pitch baseball playoffs with Game 4 between the Pirates and the Mets. I don't know what the score will be on that. We won't know that until tomorrow night. I originally had an app of football scheduled as my Sunday video, but after seeing Inside Blitz and what a mess that turned out to be, we're probably going to pull football off the channel for a little while. As for next week on Wednesday, we're playing Zero Leader by DVG. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.